a bite without a warning is really, really scary. Dogs who do not growl and do not show any signs before biting are very dangerous to live with. And I was recently presented with a case of Beans, a 7-year-old bully, and she did exactly that. She bit pretty severely without any kind of warning, or at least not a kind of warning that you could see in real time. So, since my Sammy was a little bit like her, I wanted to bring this case to you and talk a little bit about what we could do with Beans. So stay tuned and have fun with this episode of A Dog Soul, an empath's guide to your dog's feelings. Alright, so when things like this happen, it becomes dangerous for everybody involved, right? If a dog bites and draws blood, it's an issue. It's an issue for the people living with the dog, the people who come across the dog on the street or as a visitor at home. It's an issue for the dog because, first of all, no dog is biting without any kind of reason. There is always a reason behind it. And when a dog doesn't give any warnings, there is also a reason behind it. And rest assured that this dog does not feel good in the situation. It's not a rank thing, it's not hierarchy thing, it's not a dominance thing. It's not a thing of the dog trying to accomplish any kind of position or whatever. The dog is just feeling uncomfortable, and the only solution the dog sees to get out of the situation is to bite, and that is concerning. And it can also end very, very badly for the dog, right? This is why so many people are so desperate to stop that they even use techniques and methods they know aren't okay. And they don't feel good with them. But they do it because they know that a dog who bites could very easily get put down, right? And of course, nobody wants friends and family and people on the street to get hurt either. And as an owner of such a dog, you wouldn't want to get hurt yourself, right? So this is a situation that has to be resolved, and it has to be resolved in a way everybody can feel good with and that is safe. So before training can start with a dog like Beans, there has to be management in place that keeps Beans from biting. And after that, we can find out why she's doing it, right? But we have to keep her from it in the first place. That's the most important thing to start with. And usually we start with doing an assessment and why things are happening, right? And of course, if Beans were my client and she's not, I would do an assessment questionnaire before the first appointment, because usually between a preliminary free call and the first appointment, there is a little bit of time. So that's when the questionnaire can be filled out. But the first thing before any training can happen or before we can do anything on the causes, we have to do, or we would have to do, management. So training a muzzle pretty quickly, using baby gates, using closed doors, using leashes, anything that keeps her from hurting anybody, including herself, right? So Beans wasn't my case. Again, I was just chatting with somebody who was involved, but I want to share my thoughts with you because I think this is not that uncommon, but it's unspoken of very often. And for Beans, it started when she suddenly, and that's always a red flag, suddenly she changed her behavior. She suddenly started growling and avoiding hands that touched her on the back. So whenever somebody reached for her back or pet her on the back or whatever, so any kind of touch on her back, even the harness that has a part on her back, would trigger her growling and avoiding the hands. So she would try to go away. And that didn't work for her so well because people didn't let her walk away because they mistook the whole thing as her being dominant and misbehaving. And for the growling, that was concerning because she was a bully, so a very strong dog. And if a strong dog starts to growl and show signs of aggression in any kind of way, it becomes uneasy for the people, to say the least. So they went to a trainer, and the trainer diagnosed very dominant behavior from her and said that Beans was a very dominant dog and she has to be put into submission. So he grabbed her, threw her on her back, and held her down whenever she started growling. Now, this was very, very uncomfortable and even painful for Beans, and I will tell you why in a moment. So, Beans stopped growling, but that didn't resolve any of her issues for her, right? Because the reason why she had started this new thing suddenly was that she had actually pinched a nerve in her spine. This is not that uncommon for bullies. It's extremely painful, and whenever somebody touched her, she was either reminded of that or it was hurting her again. And of course, when she got thrown on her back, it was exactly what happened again. She was hurting really badly. Or, I mean, we can't ask them, right? But it has to be really painful. So she stopped growling because that triggered the people to act that way toward her. And she still had to get the people to stop touching her. So she started snapping again. That triggered the people to be very concerned. And again, the trainer diagnosed dominance and tried to put her into submission once again. And this led to her stopping to air snap and actually biting down hard. That was when the trainer dropped them and actually told them that she couldn't be helped. And it led to her having success, right? Because now she had found something that she wasn't punished for, and that worked. Because whenever she bit somebody, that person wouldn't reach for her again. Logical, right? So the owners did go to a vet, actually. They wanted to get a second opinion because they were really disappointed by the trainer. And the vet was awesome. He checked her out and he found the painful spot on the back. And he prescribed pain meds or treatment and chiropractic treatment as well. So this helped her with the pain, but still she had learned to distrust humans, right? She had learned that whenever she would show that something's wrong and she would show that she's hurting and that she didn't want people to do stuff to her, she would get punished. That's what kills trust. It absolutely does. And this is why the pain treatment very likely isn't enough. She has to learn to trust humans again. And that's when training comes in. And training that helps her communicate again. And this is super, super, super tricky. So whenever you see your dog growl at you or snarl or avoid whatever, take your dog seriously. Please do. Because if you have a dog who doesn't do that, it's so hard to live with. And it's really hard to get the dog back to communicating clearly. So, as long as your dog's communicating, your dog's not biting. And that's exactly what we want, right? So, this is why I wanted to present you this case. It's something that might seem counterintuitive, right? Because rewarding a growling dog with leaving him alone seems like the dog's winning, but it's okay. It's totally okay for the dog to win, quote unquote, in this situation, because the dog is telling you, hey, I'm feeling uncomfortable with this. And you answer, all right, then I'll stop. That's what a relationship is all about, right? Communication and trusting each other to respect each other's feelings and emotions and moods and boundaries. And if we see a sudden change in behavior, we have to think about why this is happening. It's never dominance. It's never some kind of rank thing. That is outdated. So try to look at it from an objective perspective. And I know that's really hard. So it might even take outside eyes, but it can actually save your relationship with your dog. And it can prevent so much heartache and bring you even closer as a team. And so does training. So, for example, in Bean's case, it would be an option to teach her to walk away on her own, so she doesn't even have to tell the human that she's uncomfortable. She can just walk away. And yes, she had tried that in the beginning and it didn't work, but she could learn that again, or she could learn to go to a safe zone or a target or something like that. And of course, the people around her would have to learn to read body language again, so they could catch very subtle signs. Because very often, even in dogs who stop communicating, they still have these subtle signs, these first reactions, like freezing up just a little bit, or widening the eyes, closing the mouth, things like that. Really, really subtle signs. And sometimes it's even only visible on video because real situations happen too fast, right? And with videos, we can assess what the dog's still showing and then focus on that. So what I want to encourage you today, and tell me in the comments if this is something that you do on a regular basis, or if you're listening to the podcast on Spotify or platforms like that, send me an email or a review of the show with your comment. And tell me if you are already regularly practicing watching body language and interpreting in an objective way. So, like, there is a difference if you say the ear is moving backward instead of the dog's insecure. The insecurity might be the right interpretation, but sometimes we just need to practice watching body language and just describing what's happening without interpreting anything. And after seeing all the signs we could see, we can do the interpretation and see if this is the same thing we would have said before looking at all the signs, or if it's different. And there are also great Facebook groups on that, so if you want to do it with other people, you could just join one of those Facebook groups, or if you want just to have videos of other dogs, not only your own, those places would also be great. And even dog parks. Sometimes I like to sit in a dog park and just watch the dogs and practice just watching. So I'm looking forward to reading your comments, your reviews, your emails. And I wish you a lot of fun training, a lot of fun watching, and we'll see each other. Bye.